Welcome back to an athlete's journey. I'm your host, Travis Reed, and I'm wanting to continue, uh, want to continue my overseas journey, part three. There's only gonna be four parts, y'all. I just want to do just two more. We already got the first two. They're all out on Spotify, on YouTube, and everything as well. So want to continue, uh, you know, but like I said, part three of just a four-part series of my journey overseas. Now, what I'm gonna do, I'm kind of gonna skip a little forward and kind of give you the cliff notes of what happened to me my next year overseas after winning the championship in Holland. Now, I think I told you what happened in the summer because pretty much I won the championship in Holland. My second year, I thought I was going to be winning like 10 championships. um, after that, I got back home. I relaxed for about 2 weeks, and I literally played in the Summer Pro League. With my boy Baron Davis, Billy Knight, Kevin Bradley, and that's when I met this rapper. It was an up and coming rapper at the time, but he become a West Coast legend. This rapper named The Game, Jason Taylor. So we all played in the summer league, and we won the summer league at Long Beach State. And it was like a big thing because there was so many scouts there. Like I could have tried to go to maybe Italy or France or something like that, but I stayed loyal to Holland because I had signed a contract, in the beginning, in the middle of the season to come back. And, I was like, man, maybe I should, try to go, take my chance. But I didn't take a chance. I just went back to Holland. And I had a tremendous year. I wasn't MVP of the league that year, but I was top five player in the country again. Um, I played every game, but that year was a tough year because my brother got into a big car accident, so he was, jaw wire shut, things like that. Um, it was just a really, really, really tough year. A lot of things happened, and too much to talk about, but I got into a slump because after we won the championship, they wanted to do a documentary of us. So we didn't want to do it, but our coach did it, because he was selling a book. And pretty much, what happened was, like they followed us around practice and where we went and what we did. And so it was just, kind of crazy, but, it is what it is. And for the first time, me being overseas, and obviously that was just my third year, uh, I let things affect me mentally, because the things that was going on back home. And so I was playing terrible. I played terrible for I don't even know how long, maybe like a month. And my coach was like talking to me. Then he went to the press talking about me. He went to, like saying I'm a selfish player. I'm this, I'm that. I'm not a good teammate. They were going to release me. I mean, literally, where I just won a championship the year before, was MVP, all that, and they were going to release me this year. And I was just like, well, if they do, they do. You know, I was at that time I was ready. Like I didn't want it to happen, but like I'm just like you gonna talk mess about me in the newspaper. Like he's trying to do it to motivate me, but I'm like I don't need that. Like I motivate myself. So I think that if I would have got a good offer, I would have left. I think so. Pretty much, I remember after that, pretty much after that, like there was a game. We had a game against France, and like we had it in the ULIP Cup. ULIP Cup is like where champions of the countries play against each other. So we were playing against France in the ULIP Cup at home. And I had like, my best game, of the ULIP Cup. I had like 28 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, things like that. So I remember he was just like, he went to the press right after the game and said, I'm a selfish player. And I was like, whoa. So, you know, it was just a situation where, I started playing better. I started playing better. And, like he backed off and it's just like, okay, Travis is back and this and that. But like that year was just a tough year. I was the only one that played the whole season, like didn't miss a practice, didn't miss a game. Everybody else on the team got injured or was out for at least a couple games. I remember that. So we ended up being in first place in the league. We won the Cup championship, the Dutch Cup championship that year, and yeah, we had a good year. Played in the U Cup, won the Dutch Cup championship. It's kind of like the NBA Cup, but over there it's much, much, much bigger. It's like it means much, much more. So we won that. We were the number one seed in the playoffs. Everybody we was like, we're going for the repeat. And being the number one seed, our second best player, Travis Young, was hurt. He was just coming off an injury. And so like he didn't really play him that much that series. And I remember that year was we were the number one seed, played against the eighth seed. And we had played that team like literally like 6 or 7 times because we had to play him in the cup. We had to play him in regular season like 3, 4 times. We had to play him in the preseason. So we played them like I said, like 6 times. And every like first time we played him was a blowout. Second time we played him was another blowout. Third time we played him, we beat him by like 15. And then fourth time we played him, we beat him by like 12. And then fifth time we beat him by like 8. And then we played them right before the playoffs to be the number one seed, and we beat them by like 3. And every game was just getting closer and closer and closer and closer. And then we played them in the playoffs. We opened up number one seed. You know, um, I win Big Man of the Year, and they beat us at home. They beat us at home, and you know everybody's shocked because they beat us at home. And now in Holland, it's the best of three. First round is best of 3. So it's kind of like you gotta, like boom. It's like boom like that. It's best of 3, best of 5, best of 7, and they beat us at home. So we had to go to their place, which was like on the other side of Holland. It was like a 6-hour bus ride to play against them, and they were rocking and rocking and rocking and rolling, and yeah, and then they ended up beating us because he didn't play our second best player. Not saying that was one of the reasons, but like not the main reason. They just caught us. They just caught us bad, and we lost. And like I said, we lost in the first round. Upset first round, and like we could have won it. We really could have won back to back that year. I thought there really was no team that could beat us in a best of 5. But I mean, the only team I thought that can give us a challenge, or 2 teams actually, was um, Amsterdam. They would have gave us a challenge because they came back better because we just had beat them in the semis the year before, but we would have had home court this year. So the game would have been in our house, and I don't think we would have lost in our house. And the other team with Leon Rogers on that team had talent. They had a lot of talent. They could have challenged us, but I think that, like I said, us having home court, we would have won. We would have won. I thought we would have won because we had home court. But like I said, when he's the best of 3 and you lose the first one at home, it's just tough. Super tough. And so, like I said, we lost. We lost. And at that time, I remember I had to switch agents because the agent I had was only looking at Holland. He didn't really want to work hard for me. He was just like, oh yeah, Holland, has this. I'm like, what about Belgium? What about France? What about Germany? What about somewhere else? Well, no, 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 no. We don't need to leave. We don't need to leave. We're making all this money here. So he was just kind of lazy, and I just felt like, he didn't want me to leave because I was the best player in the country, and he was my agent. So I had to fire him mid season, in the mid season, and then get another agent, and get another agent, and he had to negotiate for me, and he ended up bringing me back to Holland. So it was kind of like a waste in a way, because he ended up bringing me back to Holland. Now his contract was a little different than the other contract, but like he didn't really do that much. Like he just got me a contract where I was getting paid year round instead of just the months I was in Holland. So I mean, I got more money, but that was that's be expected. So yeah, so I got more money, but like I signed another deal to come back. Now and remember this is like 2 years of straight ball, straight hoop, and not no stop, no stopping. So after what happened, um, like after we lost, like I tried to take some time, a little bit of time off, but I knew I had to get back in the gym. And so, like I said, not taking any breaks or not missing any practices, doing the whole year, basically going for 2 years straight in a row, my body started to break down. So after we lost in the first round, like I stayed just to kind of relax for a week, and then I went home and then had a blast. Had home, and then like I said, we came back, and I said, okay, this will be my last year in Holland, and I'm going to leave after this year and go somewhere else. Don't matter where. Like it could have been less money, you know, and it turned out to be that year. The following year, it'd be less money, but that year, my last year in Holland, we came back. We brought everybody back for the most part. Um, we brought everybody back for the most part, and like I said, like after being the coach talked, and I just told him like, you don't need to do that to me, coach. Like I'm one of the best players in this country, if not the best. Like you don't need to talk shit about me. You don't need to do all that like to motivate me. I motivate myself. And he said, okay, like whatever. And but it was a situation where like, he still did what he did. I mean, it's not like I could tell him what to do. He was gonna do what he do. So, anyway, I come back, like I said, and my leg starts to hurt. I was like, man, my leg's killing me. And then I just kind of play through the pain, and I was like, man, I can't play through the pain no more. This just hurt too bad. And so I went to get an X-ray, and they basically the doctor of the team was like, it's a shit. He called it a shit injury, so because you're gonna have to sit out. And it was the first time in my whole life, my whole, that I was sitting out besides my broken arm when I was 12. But my first time, like I had to actually have like a surgery because I had a stress fracture in my shin. So I had a chip bone in my shin. And what they said it was because of like the access, like runners get it, people who work out a lot of get it. So like I got it because I worked out constantly then, Um, like I would play overseas, I would play and then I would take 2 weeks off and then I would get back to work. And like I wouldn't just like just like work out. I would, play pickup. I would play in summer leagues. I would, what I'm saying? I would do a lot of different stuff to where a situation happened where, like my leg just kind of, it went out on me and I had a chip in it. So I had to have surgery and they put a steel rod in my leg. And they still put a steel rod in my leg. And I see, like I was like, man, like like I don't know how that feels, but then I was gonna be out for months, And also the other American, he was out for months, little Travis. So we're both injured, you know, and the team, which was, we were projected to be first place, we were in second to last place. We were in second to last place, you know, and we was in second to last place during the first half of the season. We lost all our games, all of them, you know. So like what they did, they was like, man, we can't have both of our two highest paid players out with injury, you know, and so like they started to like, okay, like we need to get one of these two's back, like so we can start winning. And so Travis, with his knee thing, like I don't know, he had to have surgery too, I think, and he was out, because I was out pretty much August, September, October, November. I think I came back in December or January. I can't remember. I think I came back in January, and he came back in like February or something like that. So, um, I remember that it was just a situation where we we needed like first the rewind. First, it was a situation where my mom came out there. She took care of me for like 2 weeks. Had home cooked meals. Her first time calling overseas was to come take care of me, and she didn't mind. She would have stayed in the house with me. I was like, nah, mama. Like, I told the team, take her out, take her places, whatever. And like, get her out of the house because I don't want her in the house with me all the time. I just wanted her like to go at least see the country a little bit, like not just come and just be with me. But she came, like I said, and I had a wonderful time, and I love my mom very much. Um, but like I said, like I was out there, not miserable, but just sad, because I was like first time being injured. So it's one of those like, okay, well, what are you gonna do? You know, we just going. So me and Travis, we played against each other. NBA, it was the 2K or NBA 2K, whatever it was, or NBA Live, whatever it was. We played against each other every day. we were we were just monsters against each other, like to the point where I played that game so much that I figured a glitch, and he found a glitch, so he used that stupid glitch to beat me all the time, and he was just like, man, he found a glitch, so I saw like one of those, and the glitch is something that where like you can get away with something and the game doesn't pick it up because it's a glitch in the game. So I just remember that like it was funny, like, oh man, it was a glitch, but that's okay. So anyway, like I'm rehabbing, and I'm like, okay, I'm coming back. I'm finally back. Um, we start winning again. We start winning again, and we just start climbing up the standings. We went from second to last to like the 10th, the 8th, the 7th, the 6th, the 5th. We got all the way up to third place. We finished third, because Travis came back. I won best big man again. But the team offered me the biggest deal at the time in their team's history. And I was like, no, 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 I don't want to take it, because I was done. I was done with the coach. I was done. I was done with everything. I was just ready to move on to something different. That's all. Because as much as my Coach Boat was cool. It was just a situation where you needed a different voice. He was just so like, Ugh, you know, where I just like I couldn't take it anymore. So I knew that I was like, I'm out. I ain't gonna do that. And even if they offered me this big old deal, I'm not gonna take it. So I didn't take it. Um, and we started. Like I said, we finished third, and we actually did pretty good. Like I said, we but rewind a little bit. Started the playoffs at home against the sixth seed. Sixth seed is a new team. They have a lot of Americans. Da da da. So we lose game one at home again. And then the next day in the paper, it says deja vu. Deja vu. So I remember Travis, I talked to Travis, he was like, hey, Travis, welcome to British Airways. How may I help you? Because he was like, hey, we lose, we back at the crib. I'm done. I don't care. So, um, I said, nah, man, we ain't gonna lose in the first round again. So we went up to their place. They had, they had this celebration like they was gonna beat us. Dudes colored their hair like Rodman. It was, looking ridiculous. And I'm just like, nah, my teammate, one of my teammates, like, Trap, we can't lose to a dude who has green hair. This dude has green hair. Uh, so, what happened? We didn't. We ended up beating them in overtime. I'm like, it's over. It's over. And I knew to myself that we took their best shot and we won. So now they got to come back to our house. It's over. And I made sure of it. And so after we got back to our crib for game three, you know, I was I was determined, and so I scored like 38 points. But I scored 28 of them in the first half. We was up 25 in the first half. Ended up winning by 20. Because I just told myself, well, I'm not going home. I'm not losing to them. And the team was like Matrix. The team name was Matrix Magic or whatever. They ended up going to the finals the next year. But no, I was like, nah, we ain't losing. We ain't losing in the first round again. We ain't doing that. So we ended up winning. We ended up winning at home. And like I said, we ended up winning by 20 because I was like, ain't no way. I was, that game, I was like, up, score. Okay, score, score. Score. And my coach knows when I got it going, he just leave me in. He'll just leave me in the game. Like, he won't take me out. And so next thing you know, I had like like 10 points in the first like 5 minutes. And then the next five, I had like another eight. And it was like, before you knew it, I had like 28 at the half. And then, like I said, I ended up with 38 or whatever it was. And so, we ended up winning by 20, like I said. Then we played the two seed, which was Amsterdam, who was the defending champs from the year before. And they had a real good team too. And like I thought, like, okay, well, this is revenge time, you know. So we come out game one, boom, beat them in Amsterdam, you know. And so like, but this is best of five, so we thought it was gonna be a long series, and it turned out not to be that long because we beat them. We knew they couldn't beat us at our place, so we beat them at home. We beat them at our house, so we was up 2-0. Then we went back to their place, and they beat us 2-1, and then we came back to our place and we closed it out. And then we was going to the finals, back to the finals. Now, this was the finals that everybody wanted to see because the team that was the number one team had the quote unquote best player, and I was the second best player, or whatever. We were the best two players in the league. And I was the MVP before him, like 2 years. And then he's been the MVP the last 2 years, Leon Rogers. Great player offensively, great player. Could shoot it, could handle it, knew how to get fouled, knew how to, you know what I'm saying? Like, he just was a great player. So anyway, um, they had they could, what they did was combine teams. Two teams came together so they could make sure the budget happened. Like, one team was like in the city, and then the other team was in another city, and they basically said, nope, we're gonna combine you two teams to have one team. So I told my boy Sam Jones all the time. Shout out to Sam, Snoop. Just like, bro, it took you to combine teams to beat me. We beat you straight up with one team. So anyway, so we combine teams or whatever. They combine teams, but like we're back and forth with them, back and forth. Like I said, it's the two best teams, and they were essentially the two best teams in the league, as far as talent. We knew that we was our team was talented, but their team was talented too. So they beat us game one. I played terrible. you know, and then the second game we win, and then game three was like the game we should have stole, but we ended up losing at the end of the game, and yeah, like we ended up losing at the end of the game, and they beat us game three. Then we win game four, so it's 2-2. Game five they win. We come back at home, win game six. So if we was gonna win, we should have won it in six. But like I said, we had to go back to game seven. We were up in the first half. Then they came back and beat us, and I was just like devastated because I wanted to go out a winner, but I felt bad. I felt like I let the team down. Because we didn't win the championship. We went to game seven of the finals and lost. But you know, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Like it was a situation where I was super sad, super upset, whatever. But I'm just glad that we like I just told the fans I'm sorry, but like I didn't say to the fans I'm moving on, but I knew I was moving on. That was it for me in Holland. And so those were my last couple years in Holland. I just kind of want to just go through that.